Hello, nerds! Thank you for joining me here on Nerd News Clips. This is the second channel. This is the place for all of the short-form content as well as the individual sections and just generally speaking smaller things. If you are into the longer form content, youtube.com/generallynerdy is the place to go see that. With that out of the way, let's get into this. Gaming and tech. We do have a bunch of follow-ups to talk about in gaming and tech because, I mean, honestly, we set this one up for follow-ups from last week because Resident Evil and Silent Hill both had special presentations about talking about new stuff, so we're going to get into that. So starting off, we're going to be talking about the Resident Evil 4 remake, which was the primary focus of the Resident Evil special presentation. Yeah. It looks great. I don't know, like, that's just a weird... Considering how epic the Silent Hill presentation was, I was expecting a lot more from Capcom, but again, it is what it is, really. There is some new gameplay mechanics that they're inputting into Resident Evil 4. You have a parry, so the dude with the chainsaw is not going to be quite as scary as he once was, though... Still pretty ridiculous, and that's kind of all we got on Resident Evil 4. So next we're going to jump into the Silent Hill stuff because we've got a lot here from Silent Hill. So if you don't remember from last week, or you didn't watch the Silent Hill, the transmission, the special transmission is what they were calling it, then we've got an announcement of 3 games, a series, and a movie in this special presentation. So, and ostensibly, it could be 4 games and not the series. We'll get into that in the TV stream. Right now, we're just talking about the actual legitimate video games. And so, first on that list is Silent Hill Townfall. So, they did give us a bit of a trailer for this game. And the fandom has gone a little nuts over it. And there have been some hidden messages decoded from this in some very interesting ways. So it looks like it's going to be a prequel because of these decoded hidden messages. The first of which reads, "Whatever heart this town had has now stopped." So that comes from the spectral analysis of the audio of the trailer. So there's like some staticky stuff. And if you put it through a spectral analyzer, which basically is a different way to visualize audio on a computer, there is text inside of the spectral analyzer, and that's what it says. Whatever heart this town had has stopped. That's a little dark. And then there's some backwards talking in some of the audio as well. That backwards talking has been reversed and listened to, and they're referring to Alessa, which I didn't quite realize, I guess because I kind of fell off after Silent Hill 2, but I didn't quite realize that Alessa from the first movie also really, really deeply factors into the lore of the actual games. So I believe she started in the movie and then was translated into the game. I could be wrong. Somebody correct me if I am, please. But either way, they're talking about Alessa in that backwards audio in this broadcast. So that kind of also lends to, prequel stuff. And then I think the biggest thing is there's Morse code that was found in the audio of this trailer, and the Morse code has been decrypted, I guess, and it says, "Thy flesh is weak." So the use of the old English, though speaking of weak flesh, very much sounds like the mythology of how Silent Hill became Silent Hill. So that's what's leading the community to believe that Silent Hill Townfall, also the name Townfall, the fall of a town, kind of is in the title, right? It seems to be a prequel. Super excited about that. Let's move on. Our next game is Silent Hill F. Again, it's an F hole, so makes you think that there's going to be a strong musical presence in this. Not a whole lot is known outside of the trailer, though it is noteworthy that this is the first time we are leaving small town America and going to apparently small town feudal Japan, kind of, maybe. Small town Japan at the very least. Super interesting. Lots of flowers. The developer on this, or the story, the guy who's been hired, the person, I guess, who's been brought in to develop the story is Ryu Kishi. Oh man, 07, I think is how you would say that. So that person's been attached to develop the story. I'm inclined to say he, because Ryu, I believe, is a male name. And then we have former Nintendo developer Motoi Okamoto is set to produce, and Neo Brands Entertainment is the developer, the company that is developing the game. So they just came out of work with Capcom on the Resident Evil series. So this is shaping up to be quite an epic release in the Silent Hill universe. Super excited about that. That's all we've got on that though. And then we're talking about Silent Hill 2 Remake. Looks like a straight up remake. This looks pretty solid, and it's a PlayStation 5 exclusive. Isn't that garbage? Don't you just hate that? Honestly, I think the only game that was released on an Xbox console was Silent Hill 2, and it was like the re-release on the Xbox 360, I'm pretty sure. I have it somewhere in my boxes of games and stuff, so I can't remember if it was OG Xbox or 360. But either way, I think that was the last time a Silent Hill game was released on the Xbox, so I'm crossing my fingers that we have at least a cross-platform for Townfall and maybe even for F, but it looks like the Silent Hill 2 remake is going to be exclusive to PlayStation 5, which sucks. And that's what we got for Silent Hill, so let's move right along into Gotham Knights. We have a bit of a controversy when it comes to Gotham Knights. Rocksteady developer has come out and said, and then deleted the tweets, that the existence of the Xbox Series S console, which he refers to as a potato, is what is hindering development for the Xbox Series X console. So the little one is dragging the big one behind, which is why that when players saw that the Gotham Knights game is going to be anchored down to 30 frames per second, everybody got grumpy, and his explanation is, well, if we didn't have to develop it for both consoles, we would have been able to give you 60 frames per second, no problem. To which I said, well, didn't we get that kind of development on the Xbox One? Didn't a lot of Xbox One games get released at 60 FPS? So if the Series S is more powerful than the Series One or than the Xbox One, I feel like your argument doesn't hold water there, boss. So yeah, that's kind of the controversy. I don't know if he deleted the tweets because he was made to by his company, or if Microsoft stepped in and had something to do with it or what, but that is kind of where it is. I guess that's a little bit of an explanation as to why Gotham Knights, which we talked about in the last live episode, why Gotham Knights is stuck at 30 FPS. But I mean, it's not a fighting game. It's not a sports game. It's not a competitive game by and large. So I don't understand why it's such a huge deal that it's at 30 and not 60, but I don't know. I also don't get caught up in that kind of stuff. I just like to play games. Next is a tech update, and we're talking about YouTube once again. They're rolling out a bunch of changes. We kind of talked about it in the last live episode. And I believe we've touched on a number of things in the regular episodes as well. The newest thing, now that they're adding, again, all of that other crap, is pinch to zoom. So on mobile, when you're on mobile, they're rolling out a new update that should be out, I believe, next week to everyone. You will be able to, as you're watching a video, you'll be able to pause it and zoom, and it will stay zoomed. I wasn't able to decipher whether or not you could also play it while zoomed in like that, but it will stay zoomed until you unzoom it. So that's pretty cool, not gonna lie. That's the real quickie there. And then we have one final follow-up, I hope, for the Google Stadia console platform, whatever. Google Stadia is shutting down, we know this, but we have Rockstar and Bethesda both joining up with CD Projekt Red, Bungie, Ubisoft, and IO Interactive. So because all these were developers that developed games for the Google Stadia, and now that people who, have been playing their games for so long are no longer going to be able to play their games on that platform, they're going to allow you to migrate your game saves over to another platform if you already have an account on said other platform. So This is pretty cool. I don't know exactly how the logistics are going to work out for this, but if there's some sort of announcement, if it's some sort of trick or something like that, like it's difficult to do, we'll talk about it and hopefully try and clear the air. But as it stands right now, hopefully it will be pretty self-explanatory. Let's move right along into regular ass news. Speaking of big presentations, we also got something for The Sims, which was not exactly a big presentation either. It was actually kind of a little lackluster, but it is worth noting, and I didn't talk about this when it happened last week, or 2 weeks ago, but as of October 18th, The Sims 4 is free to play. The base game is free to play. If you want the DLC, then you're going to have to pay for any expansions to the game, but if you just want to play the base game, you haven't played The Sims in probably a couple of decades, then you can go download the free-to-play version on all platforms. So that's pretty freaking cool. There is also a new Sims game that has been announced, and the name of that game is called Project Rene. So far, not a whole lot has been released about Project Rene, but the bits that have basically just show you how customizable the game is going to be, and the community is rightfully comparing that to the new Paralives game, which is really the only competition The Sims has in their gaming category. So very interesting. We will definitely keep tabs on this if anything crazy happens. That being said, though, that is all we have for regular ass news. Let's talk about gaming and tech suggestions. Gaming suggestion this week is the OG Resident Evil. Fire it up however you must. If you have an OG PlayStation, if you just have to run an emulator, if you have one of the remade versions of this game, as it has been done a number of times at this point, then by all means do that. But go see where modern survival horror originated from. I mean, it's not the first survival horror game, but it is kind of the one that laid the track for everything we play these days in that genre. If you can make it up to the point where the dog jumps through the window and not poop your pants, then you have a stronger constitution than I, my friend. Either way, it is totally worth it to play for Halloween. Go play some Resident Evil 1. Once again, this has been just a brief segment from the larger episode that has been posted over on the main channel, youtube.com/generallynerdy. Go over there for the long form content, or just subscribe here if you want it in bite-sized chunks. Thank you very much for joining me, nerds. We'll see you in the next one. Before we go, though, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.